Hello everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic back once again, and it's time to talk about everything that happened at AEW All In 2024. Let's go. 2-hour pre-show to kick things off, of course, with some interesting segments, most notably probably Swerve Strickland signing his contract extension from footage earlier today. The opening match of the pre-show is a 16-man tag team match. The heel team of Private Party, Jay Lethal, Satnam, Singh, Ariya, Daivari, Anthony Ogogo, and John Silver and Ike Reynolds of the Dark Order taking on the babyface team of Top Flight, Action Andretti, Lio Rush, Tommy Billington, Kip Sabian, Rocky Romero, and Kyle Fletcher. Things break down before long and everybody gets in the ring for a big old brawl, with everyone spilling to the outside, leaving little Lio Rush alone in there with big Satnam Singh. Lio can't knock the big man down, bouncing off him comedically with a crossbody attempt. Satnam goes for a gorilla press on Lio, but all the faces swarm him and he does the rah spot where he bursts out of their dog pile. He then throws Lio to the outside, and then John Silver takes control shortly afterwards, distracting the referee and allowing the heel managers Uno and Sonjay to work over Action Andretti through the ropes. Andretti is the face in peril for a while, but he gets the hot tag to Kip Sabian, who then moonsaults nicely to the outside, while in the ring, Kyle Fletcher takes control for a while and is made to look quite strong, it's worth noting. Don Callis is on commentary, and he's loving it. All the faces take turns hitting crossbodies to the outside, but back in the ring, Private Party managed to hit Gin and Juice on Kip Sabian. Rocky Romero saves the day, and Tommy Billington hits the diving headbutt, but he gets knocked out by fellow Brit Anthony Ogogo. Kyle Fletcher comes back in and tombstones Ogogo very impressively. It all breaks down again, everyone hits their signature moves on each other before Dante Martin hits a huge frog splash on Daivari for the babyface win. This match is followed by a big announcement from AEW Grand Slam Australia, which is coming in February. Very interesting. The next match is mixed tag team action, with Willow Nightingale and Tomohiro Ishii teaming up against Kris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway. And of course, the winning team picks the stipulation for Willow versus Statlander at All Out. Stokely immediately tags out of the ring to avoid Ishii at the start, so Willow comes in to face her former friend. Willow takes control at first, but Stokely pulls down the middle rope as she hits the set of ropes, and she spills nastily to the outside. Statlander takes control from here and hits a big vertical suplex on the floor. A little bit later on, back in the ring, she gets a near fall off a big blue thunder bomb. The two women have a strike exchange, which Willow wins. Just tag Ishii in immediately, what are you doing? Instead, she keeps wrestling Statlander, but she does get the better of her, to be fair, with a Death Valley driver. Finally, Ishii gets the tag and Stokely reluctantly gets in. Ishii no-sells a few chops and a couple of shoulder tackle attempts before starting to take it to Stokely. However, Statlander saves Stokely from a brainbuster attempt, and she attacks Ishii while Stokely distracts the ref. She then whips Ishii into a shock big spine buster from big Stokely Hathaway. He pops up, he's all fired up, the crowd love it as well. Ishii no-sells it and rises menacingly behind him. Stokely then drop toe holds Ishii into the corner and hits the 10 punches, and obviously gets powerbombed out of the corner by the Stone Pitbull, but Kris Statlander is there to save the pinfall attempt. Willow and Statlander get back into it, with Willow nailing the pounce on her former tag partner. Ishii then drills Stokely with the sliding lariat, and the babyfaces win the match. Next up, Tony Khan comes out with Shivani and with Martha Hart. She gives a speech. She wishes everybody luck tonight, especially those who won the Owen Hart tournament. So that means she wants Brian to do well, which makes sense, and she wants Mariah May to do well, the most evil woman in AEW. Fair enough, Martha. She's really demonstrated who her favorites are there. Questionable though one of them may be. Another big announcement next, the date of Forbidden Door. We already knew that it was going to be in London, but it's going to now be on August 24th, 2025. The third pre-show match is another big multi-man tag bout. The Cage of Agony and the Undisputed Kingdom taking on Sammy Guevara, Katsuyori Shibata, Dustin Rhodes, and the Von Erichs, accompanied by the legendary Kevin Von Erich. We get a big brawl on the outside to start, and once they get inside the ring, the faces take control and all hit simultaneous Dustin Rhodes boots down low in the corner. Sammy hits a big springboard moonsault to the outside, followed by a diving cutter back into the ring on Brian Cage. He gets taken out though with a massive pounce, and now the heels isolate Sammy for a while. He eventually gets the tag to Dustin, who runs wild and sets up for the crossroads, it looks like, but the heels all come in to stop that, and it all breaks down once again. Matt Taven hits a huge dive to the outside, and then Dustin teases doing one of his own, but he's just kidding and he poses in the ring instead, only for Brian Cage to come in and throw him over the top rope onto everybody anyway. Cage then does a dive of his own and sort of gets caught, but it looks like a nasty landing to be honest, and then Sami hits a huge shooting star press from the top rope onto the pile on the outside. Back in the ring, Dustin nails Taven with a destroyer for a 2 count before the Gates of Agony come in for a big Tower of Doom spot out of the corner. Meanwhile, Mike Bennett fights out of a Shibata sleeper attempt and the Kingdom take out Shibata, only for Taven to fall victim to the crossroads from Dustin, but the pinfall is broken up just in time. The Gates of Agony hit some big power moves on the faces before Cage joins in to powerbomb Dustin, then they drag Taven on top, but Rhodes kicks out just in time. The faces all fight back and Shibata hits his big corner dropkick on Mike Bennett. Dustin then sets up Taven for Sami to hit a big senton from the top rope. He lands directly on the torso of Taven. It looks like it must have really hurt. Dustin makes the cover and the babyfaces win. The heels attack the faces during their celebration, so Kevin Von Erich gets in and puts the Iron Claw on Taven. All the faces put on Iron Claws on all the heels as well, and they clear the ring. It's a nice moment for Kevin Von Erich, and the fans show their appreciation. Saraya now interrupts the pre-show with some relatives and friends of the Knight family, including Rio, who's a real standout of my local promotion, North Wrestling. Great to see her get a little moment on the show. And unlike last year, Saraya is fully heel now. She wants her respect. She wants her place on the card. Last year, she became champion. What's she doing now? AEW doesn't respect her, and these fans don't respect her either, and she's very cross about that. But she is interrupted by none other than the returning Jamie Hayter, who gets a monstrous reaction from the Wembley crowd. Saraya's allies try to stop Hayter on the ramp and she plows through all of them, beating everyone down and getting in the ring to face Saraya. Saraya's mum then provides the distraction to allow Saraya to get away, and Jamie has to basically be content with destroying Harley Cameron in the middle of the ring instead. So Saraya gets away for now, but Jamie Hayter will surely get her hands on her soon, and yeah, she's still as popular as ever. And finally, we get onto the main portion of the show, opening with the London ladder match. This has 4 teams fighting it out for the trios titles. The reigning champions, the Patriarchy, defending against the House of Black, the Bang Bang Gang, and the team of Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, and Pac. The match begins and everybody brawls while Christian immediately runs all the way back up the ramp and hides behind the curtain. Everybody stops each other from climbing a ladder in the ring, and we get a series of dives to the outside, with Pac, of course, getting the biggest reaction of all for a huge Sky Twister press. The Guns take control and do the Dudley's diving headbutt spot, followed by telling Juice to get the table, but the House of Black take control before they can set it up. Don't worry, we'll see a lot of tables in this one anyway. Everybody takes each other out and everyone's down, so of course, here comes Christian running back down the ramp and trying to climb a ladder to win the match in cowardly fashion, but he gets stopped when all the opposing teams team up and beat him down outside the ring. But it's a distraction because in the ring, Shayna Wayne climbs a ladder, but the Guns spot this and stop her. They tell her to get out of here, what are you doing? Which distracts them and allows Killswitch to take them out with a big double chokeslam. Everybody now gets chokeslammed by Killswitch, who's on a roll, including Malachi Black painfully onto a ladder in the corner. Brody King tries to stop Killswitch, but Nick Wayne dives from the top rope to put him through a table on the outside with a big cutter. Killswitch climbs and has the match won pretty much, but Christian stops him because obviously he wants the glory of pulling the belts down, and of course this gives the other teams plenty of time to recover and stop the heels from retaining. The Guns hit 310 to Yuma on Brody. They try to hit it also on Claudio, but he hits an uppercut in midair and swings Juice around to the delight of the crowd. Pac then hits Juice with the black arrow from the top rope. But the Guns retake control with a pair of chairs and set up a couple of tables, but they end up having to put themselves through the tables because they're piggybacking on Claudio and Brody, who are climbing a ladder towards the belts, and the Guns have to drag them down to keep the match going, sacrificing themselves in the process. Nick Wayne dives to the outside into a destroyer on Malachi through another table. Meanwhile, Juice Robinson brings a huge ladder into the ring and climbs up, but Christian shoves it over and Juice is crotched horribly on the top rope far below. Christian nails Pac with a chair and hits the kill switch on him near the chair as well. Wheeler climbs, but Christian is passed a bottle of like perfume or spray or something by Mama Wayne, and he sprays Wheeler in the face. Mama Wayne then tries to spray Juice Robinson as well, but he blocks it with a chair and sprays her instead before setting up to like pile drive her off the apron through a table. Surely not, but Killswitch puts a stop to that and shoves Juice onto the table on the outside, which doesn't break. Ouch. Buddy Matthews tries to stop the Patriarchy's roll, but Christian spears him off a ladder through a table in the corner and they now have this match won. Everyone is down. Killswitch boosts Christian up the giant ladder, and here comes Pac, though, to save the day. He kicks Christian and Killswitch off the ladder and gloriously pulls down the belts in his home country to win the match for his team. The next match is for the AEW Women's Championship, with Toni Storm defending against her nemesis, Mariah May. We get a big intense stare down to start, and both women go for their finishes early on, but they both avoid them. They chop each other, and Mariah takes control of the match while we see Mina Shirakawa looking conflicted in the crowd. Toni misses a hip attack in the ropes, so Mariah sunset bombs her to the outside before spitting in Luther's face. Boo! Mariah stays on top and lays in the right hands to Toni, but Toni fights back with a Thez press, but it's only momentary as Mariah retakes control and hits a nice running knee off the apron to the outside. Mariah then gives Nigel a little kissy on top of the head, which he enjoys at the announce table, and then she shotgun dropkicks Luther into the crowd barricade, just for fun, I guess, and then she slaps her own mother in the front row for some reason. Mariah's crazy. Back in the ring, Toni hits the hip attack and the pile driver on the ring steps. Oh my! She then consoles Mariah's mother at ringside. What a babyface champion she is. Mariah is busted open now, and Toni presses the advantage. Mariah spits at her, and Toni just slaps her in the face. But Mariah gets back on top and steals the hip attack and hits it on Toni, and a second one, and a third. She goes for a fourth, but Toni bursts out of the corner with a big lariat to stop that fourth hip attack. Now it's Toni's turn to hit the hip attack and Storm Zero, but Mariah kicks out and flips Toni off defiantly from the canvas. They exchange big slaps until Aubrey tries to break it up, but she doesn't see Mariah hit Toni with a low blow, only for Toni to return the favor. Both women hit each other with simultaneous headbutts, and both are down to a standing ovation from the crowd. When they get back to their feet, Mariah counters Storm Zero with Mayday, but Toni just kicks out in time. Mariah crawls over to the women's title belt in the corner, but Luther stops her from picking it up, and now he flips her off, so Mariah gets the shoe instead, but Toni stops that and thinks about using the shoe on Mariah, returning the favor from all those weeks ago, but she can't bring herself to do it. Instead, she goes for Storm Zero one last time, but Mariah reverses it into a sneaky roll-up. 1-2. Toni just survives, but Mariah keeps going. A few big knee strikes, and she hits Storm Zero on Toni. 1-2-3, and we have a new AEW Women's Champion in dramatic fashion. Next up, we have Chris Jericho defending the FTW title against Hook, and if Hook loses, he never gets a shot at Jericho for the belt again. Jericho is accompanied not only by Big Bill and Brian Keith, but obviously by Fozzy as well, and he sings his own way to the ring. Thanks, guys! Hook comes out to the beeping sound at the start of Taz's old theme, which is a very nice touch, before Hook's usual song kicks in by Action Bronson. Bill and Keith join Jericho at the bell to beat Hook down because it's FTW rules, I guess, so they can kind of do what they want. Jericho hits the code breaker, but Hook kicks out straight away and fires up. He clears the other heels out of the ring before brawling with Jericho and dishes out a few suplexes, but Jericho fights back, nails the lion salt, and fetches a pool cue, or maybe a snooker cue because we're in England, of course, and a sack of cricket balls. Hook suplexes Jericho though, and he lands on one of the cricket balls. That looked like a very nasty landing indeed. Hook goes under the ring and finds a customized Jericho cricket bat and uses it to beat the heels down. He then fires some of the balls at Jericho, and that's actually so scary if they're real cricket balls from very close range. Hook hits a cricket bat assisted suplex, but Brian Keith takes him down with a trash can lid. Jericho locks in the walls, but Hook kicks himself free and puts on the walls himself. The heels retake control and try to put Hook through a barbed wire board on top of a table on the outside, but he fights out of it. Jericho then attacks Hook's healthy eye, but Hook reveals that his injured eye is fine now, shades of Jon Moxley. Jericho inadvertently sends Bill through the table on the outside, and Hook applies the Taz mission. Brian Keith gets on the apron to try and stop it, but Taz stands up from commentary and takes Brian Keith down with a Taz mission of his own. Huge reaction for that. And of course, back in the ring, Jericho submits, and Hook is the new FTW champion. He's got the belt once again. He and Taz hug it out. It's a genuinely nice moment. And yeah, we were all waiting to see if Taz would do something, and he finally did on a big stage. Next up, three-way tag team action with the Young Bucks defending against FTR and the Acclaimed. FTR are in their Heart Foundation inspired gear. The Young Bucks are dressed as Sgt. Pepper's era Beatles, and the Acclaimed do their rap. I can't remember all of the bars, but Caster said that FTR look like members of the EDL. and that got a big pop. If you know what that is, you know. Okay, the Acclaimed and FTR start quite evenly while the Bucks try to get involved, but they get cleared out of the ring. Later on, though, the Bucks do manage to blind tag their way into the match, and they run through some of their signature double team offense to take control. Anthony Bowens, though, starts to build up a head of steam, and Max Caster joins him in the ring for a double Sesame Timbers on both Bucks at once. They do their scissor taunt to a big pop from the crowd, but here comes Dax Harwood to take control with many German suplexes, including a double one on both Young Bucks, and then Cash Wheeler joins him for stereo Germans on both of the Bucks at the same time. Everybody gets in the ring at once, and they all end up taking each other out with clotheslines. When everybody gets back to their feet, we get a nice exchange between Dax and Matthew Jackson, which ends with like a fake-out punch into the DDT from Dax. But then Nicholas helps out his brother, and they go for the TK driver, only for Nicholas to get pushed into an inadvertent moonsault all the way to the outside. This allows FTR to hit the Shadow Machine on Matthew Jackson, but Nicholas pulls out the ref just in time. Billy Gunn, or Daddy Ass, doesn't like this, and he tries to attack Nicholas, but he gets super kicked, sadly. Matthew tries to convince Max Caster to join him for the EVP trigger on Dax, which Caster reluctantly does, but then slightly later, Caster also helps Cash Wheeler hit the Shadow Machine on Matthew Jackson. A little bit later on, the Bucks hit stereo low blows while Matthew has grabbed the referee's collar to kind of unsight him. Bowens kicks out of several pinfall attempts from the Bucks, who get frustrated and grab the title belts. Matthew sets up to hit Bowens with one of the belts while the referee is getting rid of the other belt looking outside of the ring, but Billy Gunn stops him and hits the Faymaster on Matthew Jackson. The Acclaimed hit their two finishers, but Nicholas breaks up the pinfall just in time. He does then get a sneaky belt shot on Dax Harwood from the outside of the ring through the ropes. Matthew rolls Dax up, but he kicks out at 2. Unfortunately, though, the end is near, with the Bucks hitting the EVP trigger and finishing him off. The Bucks celebrate in the ring. They are still the tag team champions, but here come the grizzled young veterans. The Bucks want none of Drake and Gibson, and they leave the ring, so the veterans beat down FTR instead. I guess that's maybe the feud going forwards. It seemed like the grizzled young vets were heels here, so I guess a feud with FTR makes more sense than a heel versus heel feud with the Bucks. But who knows? We'll find out in the future. Next up is the Casino Gauntlet match for an AEW title shot, which can be cashed in at any time. The rules to this one are kind of like a reverse Royal Rumble, so like the entry is staggered, but you want an earlier number because there's only one fall, so in theory, the match could end before a third entrant has even arrived. Orange Cassidy is number 1, we already kind of knew this, but Kazuchika Okada is number 2. Okada wants a hug to start off with, so Cassidy obliges, but it's a dirty trick, and Okada beats him down. He goes for the Rainmaker, but Orange counters it by just keeping his right arm in his pocket. That's very clever. Well done, Orange Cassidy. He's done his homework. Okada, though, is in control as we get our third entrant to a monstrous reception. It's returning to the ring, Nigel McGuinness. Nigel takes it to Okada as the crowd go crazy for him, and it's great to see him back in action. The fourth entrant is Kyle O'Reilly, and he takes control of the match for a little while, and then we get a chain of submissions applied with Nigel in control until Cassidy comes in and hits him with Stundog Millionaire. The fifth entrant is the recent winner of this year's G1 Climax, New Japan's Zack Sabre Jr. He squares off in an all-British contest with Nigel McGuinness, and the crowd are very excited. They trade European uppercuts and pinning predicaments, but Okada spoils the party by taking out Nigel to tussle with his old foe Zack Sabre Jr. himself. Okada hits the top rope elbow drop and flips off the crowd, but Zack grabs the finger and takes him down, and then does the V's. He flicks him the V's, which for any American viewers is like our version of flipping the bird, but we use 2 fingers, which means it's twice as good. Roderick Strong is number 6, and he takes out everyone, and then number 7's out surprisingly fast, and it's Mark Briscoe who takes down Okada and Roddy. He also hits a nice blockbuster off the apron on Zack Sabre Jr. as well. Mark's conglomeration allies, Orange Cassidy and Kyle O'Reilly, give him a chair, and he uses it to flip dive to the outside. Very nice indeed. Before our next entrant, it's evil Hangman Page, who gets pyro and all sorts, and is surely the pre-match favorite heading in. Hangman clears the ring and continues to take people out on the outside, including a nasty apron powerbomb on poor Roderick Strong. Orange Cassidy avoids the buckshot lariat, but does get hit with Deadeye as we get our next arrival to another big pop, it's Jeff Jarrett. Hangman and Jarrett square off, of course. They hate each other, but it all breaks down, and Jarrett has big right hands for everybody, not just Hangman, but everybody coming into the ring. And Jarrett's in control and does a lovely little strut, of course. Hangman, though, grabs Jarrett, powerbombs him over the top rope onto everyone on the outside, and then gets into an argument with Karen Jarrett on the apron, and he grabs her by the throat. But here comes our next entrant to save the day. It's the debuting Ricochet. Ricochet runs wild and hits a big springboard shooting star press onto everybody on the floor. The next entrant is Christian Cage, who has somehow managed to wangle himself double duty tonight, so here he comes limping and staggering his way down to the ring, only to be hilariously taken out with a big crossbody from Ricochet as he gets to the bottom of the ramp. Hangman nails Ricochet with the buckshot lariat, but Okada breaks up the pinfall with such an arrogant little kick to the head. Obviously, Hangman isn't happy and takes it to Okada. He looks for the buckshot, but Karen Jarrett grabs his leg, and then Jeff Jarrett has the guitar and nails Hangman with it to a big pop. Orange Cassidy and Zack Sabre Jr., opponents at Forbidden Door of course, trade pinfall attempts before people start running in to hit their signature moves on each other. The most exciting one being Nigel getting the Tower of London on Kyle O'Reilly, and it's a very near fall. Christian Cage comes in though and spears Nigel as we get our next arrival, Killswitch, but he's introduced as Luchasaurus, and Christian looks really worried. Has Killswitch, or Luchasaurus, finally turned on his master? It looks like he has, as he grabs Christian for a chokeslam, but then does it to Kyle O'Reilly instead, and pulls Christian on top, helping him win the match and the title shot. We've been swerved, and Christian Cage has got himself a cash-in at any time. Next up, it is the AEW American Title Match, with Will Ospreay trying to take it from MJF. Ospreay's entrance is a tie-in with the new Assassin's Creed video game. MJF, of course, has an ultra-American entrance. The Stars and Stripes, the Uncle Sam top hat, the big banner unfurling above the ring as he poses and everything. The crowd don't like it. They brawl at the bell, and MJF gets a thumb to the eye, but Ospreay fights back and sends MJF to the outside for a plancha, followed by a Sasuke special. MJF ducks the hidden blade, and Ospreay almost hits the ref. He stops himself short, and MJF uses this distraction to take control of the match and beat Ospreay down. Ospreay, though, goes for the Os Cutter, which MJF counters into a tombstone attempt, but they get into a roll-up exchange, and MJF eventually hoists Ospreay up for a nasty shoulder breaker, but only gets two. MJF hits the kangaroo kick, which the crowd do not enjoy. He then goes for the heat seeker, but Ospreay fights free and hits a phenomenal forearm to leave both men down. The match continues, and Ospreay starts to take control with a couple of near falls here and there. He wants another Sasuke special to the outside, but MJF impressively catches him and hits a jumping tombstone on the floor. MJF tells Ospreay that he isn't special because he can flip, because anybody can flip, and then he tries to prove it with a moonsault to the outside, but Ospreay avoids it and hits a Spanish fly instead. Ospreay hits the draping shooting star press back in the ring, but it only gets two, but Ospreay's feeling it now. He goes for the Stormbreaker, but MJF counters into the Crossroads, but again it's only a near fall. He now goes for the Brainbuster, but Ospreay counters into Stundog Millionaire and gets the Os Cutter for two. He then gets the step-up corner version of the Os Cutter, but MJF drapes a foot across the bottom rope just in time. MJF pretends to hurt the knee to bait Ospreay in and nails him with another tombstone, probably nastier than the one on the outside from before, and Ospreay does a nice sell, bouncing like Rob Van Dam off the canvas. MJF goes for the Brainbuster again, but Ospreay rolls him up for two. He then gets the Stormbreaker shortly afterwards, but it's only good for a very near fall. If only there was another move in Ospreay's arsenal which could put MJF away. Ospreay wants the hidden blade, but MJF avoids it and hits Panama Sunrise on the apron. Ouch. Ospreay almost gets counted out, but just makes it back into the ring in time. MJF sets up to use the hidden blade on Ospreay, but Ospreay collapses to the canvas before MJF can, and MJF taunts the crowd and says, "Your boy's finished." He goes for the Heat Seeker and shouts, "God bless America," but Ospreay avoids it and gets the Os Cutter on the apron. MJF recovers on the outside. Ospreay goes to jump off the apron with a hidden blade, but MJF ducks and Ospreay takes out the cameraman instead. While the ref checks on the cameraman, MJF measures Ospreay with the belt, but Ospreay ducks and hits a super kick, goes for the hidden blade, but of course, MJF hits him with the belt after all. 1, 2, no. MJF hits the Brainbuster. 1, 2, still no. MJF again wants the hidden blade, but it gets avoided and the referee gets bumped to the outside. Uh-oh, what's gonna happen now? MJF goes for the Tiger Driver, but Ospreay reverses it and thinks about the Tiger Driver himself, but MJF hits a low blow. MJF then grabs sort of like a brass knuckle style foreign object. I assume this was meant to be the Dynamite Diamond ring, which apparently got legitimately stolen from MJF this week. But yeah, he's going to hit Ospreay with a foreign object, and a balaclavaed man stops him from the apron. Who could it be? It's Daniel Garcia coming back to get revenge on the man who injured him. This paves the way for Ospreay to hit the hidden blade and finally nail MJF with that Tiger Driver. 1, 2, 3, and Will Ospreay wins the American Championship. Or should I say, the International Championship, because Ospreay after the match rejects the American title. Christopher Daniels gets in the ring and presents him with the new old version of the belt. The next match is for the TBS Championship. Mercedes Moné defending against Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. The champion gets a special entrance, arriving in a carriage with palace guards and corgis, and obviously Camille's with her as well. And Britt Baker walks out, and she's taking this seriously, damn it. Camille immediately gets involved to help Mercedes gain leverage through the ropes and take control of the match early on. Britt, though, goes for lockjaw early on, but Mercedes makes the ropes and then rides around on Camille's shoulders on the outside, calling for a timeout. Britt again goes for the lockjaw, but Mercedes counters into a pinfall attempt. She later sets up for Panama Sunrise, but Camille distracts her while she's perched on the corner, and Mercedes takes advantage, dropping Britt savagely across the top turnbuckle. Mercedes distracts the referee while Camille gets a kick in on the outside, and back in the ring, Mercedes continues to press this advantage and work over the back of Britt Baker. Mercedes hits the Three Amigos, but it only gets a 2 count. They both then head up top, and Moné hits a body slam from the second rope, again continuing this story of dealing damage to Britt Baker's back. Britt fights back into the match though and goes for a curb stomp, but Mercedes counters it, only for Britt to hit almost like an RKO, a jumping cutter anyway, and it gets a 2 count. Britt now finds herself in control of the match and runs through her offense, getting a few near falls. She puts on the glove and sets up for lockjaw, but Moné rolls out of it and gets a near fall of her own, and Moné is very frustrated at not being able to put the challenger away. Now Mercedes puts on Britt's glove and sets up for some sort of move. I think she does the jackknife powerbomb taunt. Anyway, Britt manages to get out of it and gets her glove back as well. She counters the Moneymaker into a roll-up, but then falls victim to the backstabber. They battle up top again where Mercedes goes for another body slam from the second rope, but Britt somehow counters it into a flipping, kind of like a sideways Spanish fly. It's very unique and very impressive. Britt hits the stomp, but Camille pulls Moné's leg under the ropes, although I think, to be honest, her leg was under the ropes anyway, and they do actually admit that on commentary. Britt argues with Camille while Moné grabs her belt and tries to hit her with it, but the referee catches her and throws the belt to the outside. He delicately places the belt out of the ring. While he does so, Britt pulls the old Eddie Guerrero trick, pretending that Camille has attacked her, and it works. The referee ejects Moné's henchwoman. The match continues and Britt almost gets the win, but Moné continues to kick out. Britt applies lockjaw, but Mercedes bites her hand. Yes, why doesn't everyone do that? Genius stuff from Mercedes Moné, who then throws Britt face first, or neck first maybe, into the top rope, gets the Moneymaker, and wins the match. 1, 2, 3, Mercedes Moné is still the TBS champion. The penultimate match of the night is the Coffin Match for the TNT title. Jack Perry defending against Darby Allin. Darby attacks Perry during his entrance and rubs their faces together because, look closely everyone, Darby has thumbtacks stuck onto his face. Just Darby Allin things. Darby sits Perry in a chair and flies onto him from the top rope to the outside. He then stands up the coffin vertically and looks to kind of crush Perry against the side of it with a suicide dive. Obviously Perry moves and Darby absolutely crashes and burns. Perry gets a bag out from under the ring and it's full of real Goliaths. Cry me a river indeed. He milks the crowd reaction, but of course it's Perry himself who ends up being backdropped onto the glass, and then Darby does that drop in with his skateboard from the top rope right onto Perry's back. A little bit later on though, Perry takes control and tapes Darby's hands together and busts him open, but it doesn't stop Darby from hitting a coffin drop to a standing Perry on the outside. Darby puts Perry in the coffin, but he struggles free and they fight up the ramp where Darby gets hit with a nasty powerbomb. Perry takes off Darby's studded belt and uses it to tie his feet together as well. Darby can't use any of his limbs, he's helpless, and can't stop Perry from throwing him off the side of the ramp down through a pair of tables below. It's a scary fall, but Darby does what Darby does and hits his target pretty accurately. Perry then zips Darby into a body bag and drags him to the coffin. He gets him inside, but before he can shut the lid, Darby sits up all intense. He tries to wriggle free, and then Perry nails him with a running knee and shuts the lid, and that's it. It's kind of I don't know if it's a comprehensive victory for Jack Perry, but it felt like it to me anyway. I don't know what you guys think, but either way, Jack Perry is still the TNT champion. Perry isn't done though. He brings out the Young Bucks, who have a can of petrol. They cover the coffin with it. Perry has a lighter. They're going to set Darby on fire. Who could possibly save the day? Of course, the lights go down, and it's Sting. Sting comes out with a baseball bat and takes out the Young Bucks with it. Perry hits a chair shot to the back, which Sting, of course, no-sells, and Perry runs for the hills, leaving the Bucks to be hit with a double Scorpion Death Drop from Sting, and the Stinger stands tall. Don't know about Darby though, like, is he okay, everyone? He just got absolutely destroyed. And finally, the main event of the night. We all know what it is. Swerve Strickland defending the AEW World Championship against Brian Danielson. Title versus career. Brian's family are in the front row for this one. Swerve gets a big live performance for his entrance, and this obviously has a big fight feel. It's an aggressive start to this one with lots of chops and posturing and staring each other down forehead to forehead. Brian gets an early arm wringer, jamming Swerve's shoulder into the canvas. The label lock is reversed and Brian is slingshotted to the outside. Swerve goes for a dive, Brian moves, but Swerve somehow lands on his feet, only for Brian to spring up to the top rope and launch himself onto Swerve on the outside. Swerve, though, takes control of the match and works over the arms of Brian. They then fight on the apron, and Brian accidentally sort of clips the referee with one of his legs. The ref turns away to recover. Nana runs over and puts the ring bell on the apron, where Swerve hits a devastating Death Valley driver. I think Brian's head actually hits the ring bell as well. Brian is bleeding profusely, but he beats the count back into the ring, but he is in trouble already. Swerve drags Brian over to his family and stomps his head in front of his wife and kids. Swerve is in full heel mode for this match. Back in the ring, Swerve hits a massive back superplex from the top and now goes for the top rope Swerve stomp, but Brian catches his legs and rolls him into an STF. Swerve breaks free, but then runs into a lariat, and now Brian starts to really fire up. He hits the running drop kicks in the corner, but Swerve counters with a flatliner and retakes control. Brian avoids the house call kick and hits a tiger suplex followed by the yes kicks, and then a huge tiger suplex from the top leading to a near fall. Brian is rolling now and kicks Swerve's head in. The crowd are loving it, and Brian locks in the cattle mutilation, but Swerve stands up, powering to his feet and dropping Brian with a nasty vertebraker. They sell this like it's serious. The referee brings in the medical team, but Swerve chases them away before they can make a decision on Brian. He sets up Brian for the Swerve stomp again and hits it this time, but Brian kicks out just in time. Swerve is not happy about Brian's resilience and hits a trio of house call kicks, glaring at the crowd in between each one. 1, 2, but Brian weakly manages to roll a shoulder off the canvas before 3, and the crowd come alive once again. Swerve hits yes kicks of his own, but Brian starts to no-sell them and fires up, looking to his family in the front row. He starts to hit massive just slaps to the face of Swerve, and then the yes kicks as well, of course. He rolls Swerve into a triangle submission with added elbows to the top of the head as well, but Swerve gets out, only for Brian to suplex him and set him up for the running knee. Brian charges, hits the knee, and Swerve just falls back into the corner of the ring, bounces back, and literally brushes it off. He brushes his shoulder and says, "That didn't hurt." Brian suddenly looks very outmatched, and Swerve hits big pressure while staring directly at Brian's family in the front row. He covers their dad. 1, 2, no! Brian kicks out. Swerve sets up to really finish Brian now, but there's a commotion suddenly at ringside. It's Hangman Page looking to ruin things for his hated rival, Swerve Strickland. Hangman shoves Prince Nana down, but before he can get into the ring, he is swamped by security, who drag him away. This does distract Swerve, however, who turns back to the middle of the ring and gets blasted with another running knee. 1, 2, and it's still not the finish. Brian does not pick up the win. Swerve kicks out just in time. The pair have a strike exchange, which Swerve wins. He backs Brian into the corner, does a forward roll and looks to press the advantage, but Brian explodes out with a knee, another running knee in fact, and then another one to the back of Swerve's head. Brian locks into the bell lock. It looks like the match must be over now, but Swerve somehow breaks free. But no, Brian grabs the fingers and snaps them, and then reapplies the submission with both arms tied up this time, and Swerve has no choice left. He submits to the hold, and Brian Danielson is the new AEW World Champion. We get emotional scenes at the end of the show to finish the night, with Brian celebrating with his wife and kids in the ring, and his stablemates in the Blackpool Combat Club as well, of course, Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta. And it's just a big happy ending to a show with many roller coaster moments of emotion as well. So that was everything in a jam-packed show that happened at AEW All In 2024. Do let me know what you thought of any of the matches, of all of the matches. Let me know all your opinions in that comment section down below. A massive shout out as well to Pierce and Dan for editing this video, and thank you once again. I've been Jack from Cultaholic. Let us know what you thought, and I'll see you very soon.